I'm gonna check with Kimberly and make sure that it's because
We just said up here on the but and they taught me that has been changed. They really didn't sure. There's nothing much changes. So these are track changes. And you don't, so a lot of grammar.
Yeah.
So then I'm gonna make. Not all. Yes. Yes.
You just don't understand what you really need to something.
So it's really taking out a part of the state requires that. Like how it's play or things. So we make it.
No.
So they have this.
Yeah, that's one of the places I had.
Yeah, so, oh, you know. It's fabulous. Yeah, I know. It's hard to prove that.
I'm getting from the same as you guys want to. If you want to start it, just care. Oh, I mean.
Huh?
It's so good.
I think I know what to do with 7 year old. I think I know what it's doing. Much brown. Yes. I did a little bit. Yeah. They just.
So now you know.
Stimulated. But it all I know is way easier.
Fears on the way.
Karen's not gonna make it. I almost did. I literally got done pouring concrete an hour ago and that's only because I had to leave green. I'm here. Yeah. You're not gonna pouring concrete about 9:30 this morning. And so, hi man, it's cool. Right. Oh, yeah.
By the way, John, put together.
Good. You built your.
And, kind of something about like, if you're not going to. Or eat the circular.
That's all I'm doing. I'm serious. He just told me.
Good afternoon, everybody. This meeting is being broadcast on the Brown County Government YouTube channel, so just let you know that. Please do not have any side conversations in the audience because there are people who are hearing impaired in this room and need to be able to hear everything, and it will be on the recording. Turn off your cell phones, please. And if you wish to speak when it's appropriate time, you will need to come up to the podium and state your name, and you'll have up to 3 minutes to speak. And there is a sign-in sheet on the table over there. Okay? And with that, Ms. Danielle, we're going to start this meeting at 6:04 PM on May 27, 2025 of the Brown County Area Planning Commission. Roll call.
Carol Bowden,
Present.
Tim Allen,
Here.
Jane Gore. Here. Andy Jones,
Here.
Sarah Hammond,
Here.
Andy Boyles.
Here.
All Decker.
Here.
Next is the approval of minutes from April 22nd and May 13 of 2025. Do I have a motion?
I'll make motion approve. I'll second it.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Tim Allen,
Yes.
Jane Gore,
Yes.
Randy Jones.
Yes.
Sarah Hammond,
I was absent.
Andy Boyles,
Yes.
Kyle Decker,
Yes.
Carol Bowden.
Yes. We have no old business. Next is new business. She's trying to get the presentation up so that it'll be on those two screens on the side and the screen on the front here.
It's trying to load.
Okay, this is the staff report for Town of Nashville Comprehensive Plan, docket number 25-N-02. Hearing date, May 27th, 2025. Request is a recommendation to the Nashville Town Council regarding adoption of the Town of Nashville Comprehensive Plan. The petitioner is Town Manager Sandy Jones for the Town of Nashville Redevelopment Commission. General history and findings. 1, the Nashville Redevelopment Commission began its comprehensive plan process in February 2024, receiving a monetary gift from the Brown County Community Foundation in March 2024 to support its completion. 2, requests for proposals, RFPs, were advertised, and after interviews were conducted, the consulting firm REA, Rundell Ernstberger Associates, was selected to complete the project. 3, a steering committee and focus groups were established, holding multiple meetings. Public input was gathered through 2 community events, 3 public input sessions, and a dedicated plan website. 4, the plan clarifies on page 13 that, quote, the comprehensive plan provides policy guidance but is not a regulatory document. The plan further explains that the Town of Nashville zoning ordinance shall be updated using the plan as a framework to support the, quote, vision, principles, and goals of the plan. 5, the plan was presented to the Nashville Redevelopment Commission on May 7th, 2025, and was unanimously recommended with no changes to the Area Plan Commission for consideration at the May 27th, 2025 public meeting. 6, legal notice of public hearing was published in the Brown County Democrat in a timely manner. 7, the Nashville Redevelopment Commission requests that the Area Plan Commission send a positive recommendation to the Town Council for adoption of the plan. 8, once the Area Plan Commission makes a recommendation, either positive, negative, or no recommendation, the plan will be presented to the Town of Nashville, to the Nashville Town Council for final determination. And that is the end of the staff report. And then the petitioner is here as well as the consulting firm. And they've got some, a presentation with some slides to show up on board as well.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Allison Richardson. I am with Rundell Ernstberger Associates. I was the project manager for the Nashville Comprehensive Plan. With me is my colleague Rose Scoble. She is a senior planner at Rundell Ernstberger Associates. And this presentation is an overview of the purpose and content of the Nashville Comprehensive Plan. If you could forward the slide, please. So in this presentation, I will be discussing the plan's purpose and limits, the development process, public engagement, vision and guiding principles, goals and recommendations, actions and implementation, and the adoption process. So the purpose of the comprehensive plan is it is a community-driven document that provides a bold vision built on consensus describing the future state of the community. It contains goals and recommendations that guide how to address key issues and opportunities in the community to reach the plan's vision. It also presents types of development patterns desired by residents to be implemented through public policy and investments. Some of the limitations of the comprehensive plan, it is not a political document per se. It is limited to impact on social issues that aren't directly related to development or land use. The comprehensive plan is not a law or an ordinance. It is a policy document to guide decisions. And the comprehensive plan makes recommendations, but it cannot mandate actions. The plan's policies, projects, and programs are implemented by city officials, private investment, and citizens. This graphic outlines the four-part plan development process. We start with discovery, where we gather a lot of information such as census data, surveys from residents, to get a sense of what is going on currently with your community and what kind of a sense for what your community is like. The visioning phase is where we establish the vision statement. And in framework, we start building out some goals and recommendations to go with that. And in action, we draft the plan and then go through the adoption process, which is part of what we're doing today. Next is an overview of the public engagement. We started in August and it has gone on up till today and will continue to go on up to adoption. We had a ton of email subscribers. We're very glad that your community wanted to be so involved. We had a lot of views on our website. At the time I made this presentation, it was over 3,500 views. 95 resident surveys, 18 visitor surveys, lots of different comments. That was all on our website. We had two pop-up events last summer. We attended the Nashville Night Out and Nashville Farmers Market. And we had focus group and steering committee meetings. Our steering committee contained 15 members and we had 5 meetings. We also held focus groups on September 10th. We had 22 attendees from various organizations and businesses and different community leaders for the town of Nashville and Brown County. We held 2 public workshops and a draft plan open house, and you can see those were pretty well attended, especially for a community of this size. Our draft open house had 46 participants and we received over 34 comment cards. Next is an overview of the vision and guiding principles for the plan. I'll read the vision statement for you. The Nashville is a thriving and welcoming town where residents build meaningful lives. Nashville is a genuine community that reflects residents' values, supports local businesses, and attracts visitors. Nashville has a variety of housing to serve its diverse population. Nashville protects its picturesque natural surroundings and tree canopy. Nashville celebrates its history as a pioneer village and an artist colony through support for local education, the arts, and local businesses. Nashville strategically invests in thoughtfully planned infrastructure and developments. Its network of sidewalks and trails make it an accessible community for all. Nashville supports local schools and promotes opportunities for youth to engage in community. So this vision statement, we're reading it in the present tense, but it's what we imagine for the next 20 years of Nashville. So we hope that in 2045, these will be true statements for the town of Nashville. Next, please. We have 7 guiding principles that we used to help guide the content that you'll see throughout this document. Several of these principles are reinforced throughout the plan. To establish clear development standards that support creativity while complementing Nashville's character, encourage development of a variety of housing types to serve a diverse population, provide a transportation network that is safe, accessible, and well-connected with sidewalks and trails, celebrate the town's history through preservation, public art, and entertainment that engages people of all ages, protect natural resources by using them for outdoor recreation and integrating them into developments to enhance quality of life, develop design standards for the downtown that prioritize walkability and accessibility and compatibility with existing buildings, and optimize infrastructure investments for financially sustainable land use decisions and maintain quality community services. Next are the goals and recommendations. This was broken up into 7 topics. Each section has a summary of background information and key challenges, and includes action and planning items to support the goals and recommendations of each chapter. So I'm just going to read the goal and a couple of the recommendations for you that guide each of these 7 sections. So the land use and development chapter, the goal is that Nashville allows a variety of uses at appropriate scales. Buildings and outdoor spaces are creative and attractive. Development standards support community character and walkability. So some of the recommendations we have are providing opportunities for larger development at appropriate locations, recommending that the town council consider some guidelines for outdoor display, and encouraging outdoor activity space and design and so on. This image is the future land use recommendations map. This is something we developed with the community and different input where we had several land use categories and where we imagined those could fit in the future of Nashville. So this map is intended to guide future rezoning or land use petitions. It does not change the current zoning. Next, please. So we have several categories. I'm going to go through kind of quickly, but if after the presentation you want to ask about any of them, we have conservation, which is mostly for outdoor activities and applied to areas like floodplains. Parks and green spaces, these were your recreation areas, public restrooms, public spaces, institutional uses. This one, we used a little strategically. Instead of encompassing all institutional uses, it identified specific institutional uses that we felt were going to remain long-term, things like the courthouse, the school, and so on. Residential central was our more compact residential area that included a variety of residential types. Residential perimeter was more on the outskirts of town, and that's more of your single family housing and maybe a bit more density where appropriate by special exception. The downtown mixed use mostly follows the village district that was adopted several years ago for the downtown. We recommended a few more areas that we thought could be appropriate for this kind of development. And business mixed use, those are your more contemporary style of commercial developments. Those we're seeing most often, April 46. Moving on to our economic development chapter, the goal for economic development is that Nashville has a strong economy that enhances quality of life for its residents and attracts visitors to the local business. A couple of recommendations were Supporting a resilient local economy by attracting a range of employment options, supporting local artists and artisans as part of the local economy, and exploring, establishing long-term partnerships. Our next goal was for the housing section. Our goal is that Nashville has a variety of housing for a diverse and growing population. Nashville's housing has ownership and rental opportunities for a range of incomes and household size. So our recommendations included supporting increasing the supply of housing, including multi-unit apartments, allowing building conversions and mixed-use buildings to increase housing, maintaining properties to preserve Nashville's desirable housing stock and town pride. For town connectivity and transportation, our goal is that Nashville maintains a comprehensive network of streets, sidewalks, and trails that are safe and accessible. A couple of recommendations here: ensuring that the transportation network is safe and accessible for all modes of transportation, more than just driving. Establish wide sidewalks and retail areas with space for pedestrian movement and activity. Expanding the trail network to connect all trails together and to Nashville and Brown County destinations. For nature and outdoor activities, the goal is that Nashville's scenic environment inspired the Brown County Art Colony and attracts residents and visitors. The town values nature preservation, beautiful landscapes, and outdoor activities that enhance quality of life. We wanted to identify important natural features for preservation and apply development restrictions, and collaborate with Brown County State Park for preservation opportunities and recreation. For arts and history, Nashville originated as a pioneer colony whose people and landscape served as inspiration for the Brown County Art Colony, established around the turn of the 20th century. Nashville continues its legacy by supporting artists and artisans and engaging with the community through public art, history, events, festivals, and entertainment. Some recommendations include promoting public art as a tool to preserve Nashville's history and sense of community. Remain a top destination
Excuse
for
me,
artists.
real quick, can we have everybody silence their cell phones just so that minimize distractions? I appreciate it.
I thought I had it, someone, sorry.
Okay. Remain a top art destination in the Midwest and to create opportunities for multi-generational community engagement through art, crafts, performing arts, music, and more. For utilities and infrastructure and public services, our goal is Nashville optimizes infrastructure investments through compact development. Nashville plans for needed infrastructure improvements. Nashville's public services are a valued community resource. And our recommendations include ensuring transportation infrastructure is maintained, that utilities must be respectful of natural resources and avoid tree trimming and limit grade changes, and to support public and emergency services and have appropriate resources for levels of service. For the end of this plan, we have the actions and implementation section where we identify action steps to achieve these different goals and identify partnerships. Using the action and implementation, the plan is a guide for the future where we choose where to grow and where to preserve. It acts as a foundation for future changes, helps us evaluate new developments for their appropriateness in the community, and recommends some new or amended ordinances that could come up in the next 20 years, recommends some infrastructure investments and federal funding opportunities. For updating the plan, it's recommended that every 5 years there is an evaluation to ensure that these goals and recommendations are still relevant to the community, and that a full update to the comprehensive plan happen every 10 to 20 years. We included an implementation matrix that included each goal and action item and some of the steps that were recommended to achieve those goals. In the matrix, we estimate timeframes for completing tasks from less than a year to 3 years or more, or ongoing, something that is completed daily or weekly as you evaluate different aspects of land use planning. It identifies some partners that could help you achieve these goals and identifies needs for staff and the town budget. For the adoption process, we did outline this a bit in the staff report. We presented to the Redevelopment Commission on May 7th, and they certified a recommendation to approve to you all, the Brown County Area Plan Commission. That's the meeting we're having today, where you all will, we hope, vote to approve. And if you choose to do so, it will go to Nashville Town Council on June 18th. If the town council approves, it will be filed with the Brown County Recorder. And that concludes my presentation. If any board members would like to ask questions, you may do so.
Thank you. Does the board have any questions?
And we were just made aware of some changes here, so I've copied those changes and you're getting them now.
Thank you.
Are you able to share those on the screen for other?
Goals for the land use page, there's a, you can show them. On your screen, recommendation number 3, we changed to recommend that the Nashville Town Council consider establishing guidelines or requirements for outdoor displays. At one time, we had recommended a permit with some parameters that was not well received, so we think it would be better for the town council to initiate something at a later date with more public feedback.
What page is page 4?
As a comment with that 2-page spread that recommended some development standards for a permit that was eliminated.
Could you repeat that, please?
There was a spread in the draft from the 7th that had some recommendations for a permit. We eliminated those recommendations.
What page was that?
What Kara's holding,
20 page.
both of them, 20 and 21.
So that would not be.
That's,
in the
That's not
plan
part of
that's
the
now, okay. But what Kayla gave us here, are you saying that you're changing the wording for number 3, or just that the timeline for that has been extended?
The wording has changed.
Well, could you repeat that change again? And if you could you hold the microphone up, keep down there just a little closer to you, please? For those of us that have older ears.
Yes, I'm sorry. So the recommendation for number 3, at one time recommended adopting an ordinance for an outdoor display permit. We changed it to read as it's shown on the screen for number 3, which is to recommend to the Nashville Town Council to consider establishing guidelines or requirements for outdoor displays. So we recommend that the town council would initiate something like that in the future, but did not give specific parameters to what that would be. We would leave that for further interpretation.
So you went from a declarative to a suggestive.
Yes.
Is that correct?
It was always suggestive as a comprehensive plan.
But you just changed the wording around to make it sound a little more so?
Yes.
I'm gonna put words in your mouth. I'm just trying to interpret correctly.
We
The reason
we
for
had
this.
given recommended parameters. We changed it to have the town council discuss that in the future instead.
Randy?
And this result of some just recent, public input?
Yes,
Okay.
Randy?
it was,
Yes.
we received a petition and some online comments and decided to make that change.
Randy,
Yeah.
of what Kayla just handed us, this paragraph, this outdoor displays.
Mhm.
It looks like it's new and is basically replacing these more explicit, like, potential guidelines that
So
have
that's
been.
nice, okay.
That, this is out, and this language, like you were saying, is more like, there's some guidelines out there, but they don't address outdoor displays, and in the future, maybe that should be addressed.
So,
What I'm gathering.
okay. So this highlighted paragraph at the end of what we were just giving, outdoor displays, is now basically replacing the recommended standards for outdoor display merchandise on page 20.
Yeah.
Well, I've got this, I have what apparently is well, we thought it was a current plan, but it's not now, correct? Okay.
Any other questions from the board?
Couple, I was looking for, you guys had listed some new development standards or construction standards. Have you guys actually established those, or will that be up to the town council?
So all recommendations are just that, recommendations. It would be up to the town council if they wish to adopt it as an ordinance. So all of the recommendations we give are some recommended parameters that it will be up to the town council to decide whether or not they want to adopt or change and adopt, or if they want to adopt it.
Trying to find the page. I'm trying to keep up with what you're talking about, where it was.
So these changes, Andy, can I
Sure.
in here on you? So the changes that were made, did these go through your steering committee? Back through the steering committee? Okay,
We do not.
okay. So those changes were made at your level?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm assuming if I'm reading this correctly, what you gave us was pretty much a synopsis of the total plan here.
Yes. The
It was
presentation.
obviously,
Yes.
it was, okay, all right.
Can't find where I was. I think it was under implementation, but I've switched around trying to keep up with you guys, so. There was a section that said specifically, it mentioned Brown County stone and like
Oh, there are
aesthetic.
some recommendations for historic preservation areas. That was in the arts and history chapter.
Yeah.
But again, those would have to have an ordinance to follow to actually enact. Those were recommendations. But, that was in chapter, I want to say 7.
So it should be on page 81.
Mine goes from 70
Yeah.
to 82.
You're 80.
Yeah, I don't even,
It's a conspiracy. Just remove this.
feels like
So my
This is
only,
what 80 and 81 look
Jane and
like.
I've got a.
my only comment was that as we,
It's in history on page 81, so you're not missing much.
my only comment to that is with, and I appreciate Brown County Stone and Cedar. It's a lot of the storefronts and things like that over the years have been kind of done in that, but there are some modern materials that are much more rot resistant and insect resistant, but still have the same look. And I would encourage the parties that be to make those decisions to consider that and not limit that, Because it's going to hamper things going forward if those modern materials can't be considered because they're in the historical district. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Not that,
I understand what you mean. I don't have that page in front of me, but they weren't, it would be up to if the town council wanted to vote one way or another. We've made some recommendations, but they weren't necessarily intended to be strict limitations, except maybe perhaps some National Register properties.
Any other questions from the board members?
I would commend you on your detailed history in here. I wish our county would have this much history in it.
Thank you very much.
I also like at our last, just to go with Kyle, one of the things we talked about at our last work session for the county comprehensive plan was about with things like infrastructure, that it's not just about expanding, it's about a plan to maintain and deal with what you already have. And I liked seeing that kind of wording in here, that it's recognizing that there's existing infrastructure that needs dealt with as well. It's not just about new areas that need service.
I'll put it in a different way. This one reads like a good book versus something thrifty.
Well, thank
If
you.
that makes any sense at all. Just a bit, but
Amy, did you find anything else?
particularly.
Okay.
I have one follow-up question. I understand that the purpose of the comprehensive plan is to lay out these like visions, the recommendations, all of that. And I don't know if Sandy or anyone from the town could speak on this, but like, are there any plans, if this is recommended for approval as is, are there any immediate plans for like adoption of updated ordinances or anything directly out of here that would change how things are being done now that we should be aware of, or it's still that stepwise process of this is the recommendation, and then you move on separately to, you know, changing as far as requirements, ordinances, whatever maybe.
My name is Sandy Jones. I'm town manager. If somebody didn't know my name. Thank you for asking that question. When I started as a town manager in 2022, I didn't have the faintest idea what I was doing. Now, not sure I still do, but I had a couple developers come to me and said, hey, we want to build an apartment complex here. And I thought, well, that's not a very good place, but I had nothing to tell me that what I thought was right or wrong. So that's why I asked the town council, can we get a comprehensive plan? So when people come to me and say, I want to build an apartment complex, I want to build this or that, I can say, okay, this is the area where it should fit. That will work. No, it doesn't fit over there. So no, I have no forward thinking that like, okay, so then in August, we're gonna have this ordinance doing this and that. I would just be pleased as punch to know that the town of Nashville had a comprehensive plan to work forward. And it's been wonderful working with Allison and REA. I think they took a lot of time to listen to our community and respect that feedback. So just want to say that. Any more questions for me?
I assume, Sandy, that you're pretty comfortable with it, very pleased with it, or you wouldn't be submitting it to us to review at this point.
That's
Would that
correct.
be a safe statement?
That would be a very safe statement.
Okay, okay. I think the plan looks very well balanced overall, and I think it's very forward-looking. My only objection is I really don't like 11-hour changes at the last minute that's given to us
Right.
in a public meeting.
Right.
I understand that apparently there are some exigencies that may have caused that. So moving on past that, I think the plan looks very well balanced.
And to speak to that, there obviously was a lot of people that were like, what are you doing? What are you trying to make us do? And that wasn't the intent. And so I think some of that language got overblown. And so we decided rather than to hurt the whole plan, just remove that. And if the town decides, hey, maybe we should do X, Y, or Z, well, then these folks are gonna be in the room having that discussion with the town council. So that's what those changes are. And there's some minor typos here and there, and Kayla's got the packet of where there's an extra apostrophe or whatever.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Now, just to review for the audience again, this is a comprehensive plan. It is a plan, it is a guideline, it is a map to get from one point to another in a journey. And the next part would be creating the appropriate ordinances that you operate under for different components of the plan. Okay, so that's a whole nother section that will happen. That's the process of when you get to start a new comprehensive plan or you update an old one. The town didn't have one, so they created it, got this grant to have the opportunity to create a plan. So just to kind of understand that process. All right. If there are no more comments from the board, then I will accept comments from the audience. Okay. Anybody want to speak on behalf of the comprehensive plan?
Just open to the floor.
For people in support of it to start.
Come up to the microphone.
To support it?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna talk about changes.
I can't hear a word you're saying
She
there,
said,
ma'am.
Sorry.
She wants to talk about changes, so if
If
you're
anyone would
asking,
like to support the adoption of this comprehensive plan, please feel free to step to the microphone in an orderly fashion.
Thank you, Andrew.
Not everybody at once.
Okay, anybody that wishes to speak in opposition, you will have to state your name and speak into the microphone, and you will be limited to 3 minutes.
My name is Jimmy Tilton. I'm not totally in opposition for the plan. I think there's a lot of good effort that's been put in by the writers, but the writers can only do what they can based on the input they are given. And a couple things that have been really troubling to me is that the comprehensive plan steering committee meetings have been all done behind closed doors. And it's like they've already come up with a foregone conclusion on how it's going to be directing our community without our input, that input from residents and the shop owners, the restaurant owners, hotel owners. Even in the last meeting, public meeting was, there was a workshop for public comment. The plan draft wasn't presented until like an email at 7 o'clock in the morning on the 28th, and the meeting was that evening at the library, and that was not enough time for reasonable people to have jobs to be able to read and comprehend the plan, and then to understand, to think about all these unintended consequences that come along with well-intentioned ideas. There's a lot of good things in it. I'm not going to say it's all bad. There's probably more things good than bad, but the things that need changes should be recognized. I've submitted a petition to protect Nashville's creative freedom. We now have up to about 175 signatures on that petition. So I have more I can submit tonight if people want to see the additional signature signees. But a comprehensive plan should be aspirational. I think that's what we would probably all agree on. It's not a document that goes into a lot of detail on what things should be. It's more aspirational. Who we want to be over the next 10 or 20 years. It should tackle real issues that are widely felt. The unintended consequences should be minimal. Yet the draft proposes sweeping changes to how shop owners, artisans, and landowners operate. To my knowledge, none of these stakeholders were interviewed in shaping these regulations outside of the steering committee, which are closed door. Before government adds new layers of red tape, 3 questions should be answered. What problem are we trying to solve? Is it truly a problem or just an aesthetic preference? Have we talked with the people who will bear the cost? Without these answers, regulations risk becoming overreach rather than stewardship. Nashville's identity is built on creative expression in every form. Folks that have paintings and canvases, to shop owners, window displays. After 20 years in retail,
I'm sorry, your time's up.
I am speaking for my brother and my sister as well.
And you did not state that up front. I told you name and 3 minutes.
Can I ask him a clarifying question though?
Yes.
Are you specifically referencing the outdoor display, like the section about outdoor display, or were there other sections that speak to that concern you were bringing?
There are other concerns as well. The outdoor displays is the biggest concern that the majority of the people I've talked with reflect that same concern. I do have my own personal questions that impact me directly that will also impact all the shop owners and all the other businesses in downtown indirectly.
Could you give just like a quick list
Yes.
of the sections of the plan that cause those concerns for you?
Yes, so on the transportation chapter, goal 5, parking areas should be paved with hard surface materials. We have a lot of parking lots in town and a lot of them are grass or gravel. They don't get muddy, they don't flood. If we are forced to pave our parking lots, they'll put us out of business. And if we have to be put out of business, what are we gonna do? We're gonna either sell the property or develop it. It's gonna be developed, it has to be developed. So when we develop our property, it's gonna push the tourists to the where park. So we've been very cautious about developing our properties because we don't want to turn off the faucet on tourism in downtown. Our shop owners rely on tourism. They need park to be able to shop. And I don't think that was taken into consideration. I'm sure it wasn't intended to be a bad thing on the document, but there are so many unintended consequences to well-meaning ideas that we just have to take a breath and ask the people who work in our community how this can impact them. And it's more than just understanding for reading comprehension. It's really digging into it. And I do have a lot of information I would have rather share because I feel like we're not ready.
I have a question for you, if it's okay, Madam Chairman.
Sure.
Mr. Tilton, you had indicated that steering committee meetings were behind closed doors.
Yes,
They were not advertised?
no,
Not required. It's not required.
No. Okay. But they were not advertised.
they were not. And I've asked to go to them and I was denied.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Is there a specific section or page number where it addresses the parking?
Page 52 is one of the pages. It's also on the first goal page. If you go to the transportation section, list the goals, and it's goal number 5. It's one of the main goals.
Now, I'm gonna repeat what I said earlier. Comprehensive plan is a plan. It is not an ordinance. It is not black and white. It is gray. It is a tool to guide the governing people to come up with appropriate ordinances to certain areas so that there is a tool to guide when people come to, I want to develop this property. I want to put in a multi-story apartment building. So this is not a definitive, this is exactly what's going to happen. This is a tool for guidance, and then you create ordinances after that.
Correct.
Okay,
And the guide is,
thank you.
But Carol, I mean, if the plan clearly says, in this example, parking should not be gravel, then that's what's guiding the creation of the ordinance down the line. So it's not making that change now, but it is saying
That's
this
a bit
should
of
be, this should be reflected in future ordinances. So,
But that's what you're not gonna have an ordinance for every single thing that's in this document, because
right, but I mean, now is the time to say, this is the desired outcome.
Yeah.
That will, you know,
I agree with Kara, but for the record, a permeable surface does include gravel.
yeah, but it does specifically say gravel should be,
Gravel,
I didn't see that.
prohibited for
Yeah.
commercial areas, gravel and high traffic areas drag onto roads.
Just,
yeah, I had your same thought, but then in the actual section, it does say.
I also know that when it's paved or concrete, then there's a lot more water to consider. So, and I know they mentioned permeable like pavers or what have you, but that would be something that would need to be looked at, because we obviously don't want to pave everywhere. That's a lot more water.
A lot of stormwater runoff.
Right.
right, and I agree with that.
In fact, like, I know Monroe County actually speaks directly to green space, and for every square foot of parking, there has to be a certain amount of either permeable or green space allowed to take rainwater and storm runoff, built in. So there've been a few projects where they could have had the amount of parking they needed, but they had to decrease the amount of parking because they had to leave a certain amount of grass or a gravel type area.
In the same area as the parking.
Right.
Okay.
So that,
Sandy, can I ask you a question?
Yes,
Do you all, the town, have specific issues that drove paragraph for parking and the lack of gravel in commercial areas on page 56? Is there a specific issue or is this just a non-issue?
it was just a non-issue. It's part of the processes. So you got the roads, you got the water, you got the sewer, it's just all of those
There's just
things.
not, but there's not a specific problem you're trying to we've
That
had
is
this for
correct.
10 years.
Correct.
Okay, so. See both sides.
Sandy, could I ask you to step up the microphone just a moment, please? I want to get back to the statement that was made by Mr. Tilson there. The steering committee meetings were not open to the public or not advertised, I guess I should say. Do you have a redress on that, or?
It's not required. Referring to REA, but as I explained to Mr. Tilton, when he was working on the bicycle pedestrian master plan, he was on that steering committee. And those meetings were not advertised, and those meetings were not inviting everybody to come in. The steering committee is a group of people, and you can see the list in the draft.
Yeah.
To come together and work on this project. As far as the draft coming available the day of the public meeting, REA advised that that's typical what they do. That draft has also been on Nashville-plan.com ever since that day for anybody to look at and read and provide comment.
So you went on the advice of your consultant,
That's correct.
and your consultants are here.
That is correct.
Okay, are you able to address that issue as far as what's, if it is or not required?
Rose Scoble, Senior Planner at REA. There is a required period which the plan has to be available for public review, and that's prior to the public hearing. That is not prior to an open house, which is a voluntary exercise. It is a way to elicit feedback, provide education about what's in the plan. So it is very typical that the plan will be released the day of the open house, which is an opportunity for people to come learn what's in the plan and then be able to follow up, reading it over the next period of time before the official hearings on that document. As far as steering committees, plan commissions may create and councils may create study committees for a variety of topics. And those meetings do not have to be advertised nor open to the public.
Okay, I don't want to keep spiraling down on this, but
Right.
is this addressed through an administrative code, AC of some kind or statute that you're aware of?
Yes, it's in the
Okay.
500, or in Indiana Code 36-7-4, the comprehensive
Okay.
plan specifics are in the 500.
Okay, I guess that's what thank you. You answered my question.
May I ask a high level question?
Uh-huh.
Does the public want more government restrictions or less? This is a guide. And it was brought up that this is a balanced document, so I'd expect there to be some of both. Should be probably some more restrictions in some areas and some additional freedoms in others. So if this is a balanced document, I should be able to see some of both. And maybe you can help me find out what part of the document actually creates more freedom.
Thank you. Good. Anybody else wishes to speak? Yes, ma'am?
All right. I am Elise Trempy, and I believe that the recommendations for the plan are not good. The vision is good, but the recommendations are restrictive, especially considering that we are a rural artistic community. The recommendations are cookie cutter and are copied from towns like Noblesville, Carmel, and other non-rural communities, which is not who we strive to be. I want to push to have the recommendations removed, as the town can decide those using the vision of the plan in the future. Several have already been brought forth here, including building materials, display recommendations, sidewalk policies, and so on. I would highly encourage everyone voting to approve this plan to consider what the community actually wants and not their own individual opinion. Most and many here in the audience are here to support our small business owners like the Tiltons and Wynn. If it is a plan and not an ordinance, then why are ordinance included? Why can't we have the plan without the included side commentary and let the council make their own suggestions based on the community's vision in the future?
Thank you, Dan.
Ma'am, do you have a specific area you have a problem with?
I think I said that the sidewalk policies, the building materials, the recommendations. The vision is good, but the individual recommendations for what those visions should include are not good. Building, yeah, the sidewalk, parking lot materials, all those little proposed ordinance that we already established are not ordinances that will have to be voted on in the future, should not be included in this plan. The plan should be a vision that we can vote on and approve today and not have added commentary that needs to be approved later.
Are there, besides the guidelines that were for the outdoor signage that was laid out with very particular, you know, public, the public display? Now I've moved that paper, I can't find it, but, are there any other, I don't know that I remember seeing specific like guidelines in that way with numbers and square feet, and is there anything else like that? And I realize there is language like Mr. Tilton pointed out about materials.
And Andy, about Brown County Stone.
Yeah.
And then there was a section on the sidewalks about how the sidewalks needed to be removed and renovated to be accessible, even though lots of our sidewalks are like the Brown County Stone or the bricks. It gets rid of, it eliminates that as an option.
Yeah, I think the problem, like the ADA and accessibility is a bigger problem outside of what the, outside of what the town may hope or people may like as materials.
Yes, but it also didn't include any commentary for already existing materials there. like any waiver on that.
So that was actually my question for Sandy, for the gravel parking lot and the sidewalks and all this stuff. How are you treating stuff that exists versus stuff that is planned and stuff that is immediate and down the road there, new stuff? Jimmy's got some gravel lots, there's some sidewalks that exist. They don't meet this maybe. What do we do with that?
I think specifically, one area keeps coming to mind. Right in front of, what is it, Haley Grind Plaza, whatever that area is, our huge sycamore tree.
Yeah.
That sidewalk's 28 inches because of the roots of the tree. In order to meet this, we're either gonna encroach into the state highway, or we're gonna remove the tree and go around it.
Okay,
So
so we're not actively going to do anything, okay? The only active thing I'm gonna do is we just got a community crossings grant to repave Old School Way,
which is,
behind the Ordinary Artist Colony Inn. We're doing that whole road, okay? We're also gonna put in ADA curbs. We have to do that now because the state's like, hey, you need to, so as things change and progress, if the tree dies at Daily Grind, hopefully, I know, sadness, then we have to replace that sidewalk, then we have something to look at, okay? Is this what we wanna do with that sidewalk? If Mr. Tilton sells his parking lot and somebody else comes in and they say, hey, we wanna do this, we'll be like, well, we kind of prefer to go this route. So that's what we're doing. We are not ripping up a sidewalk tomorrow so that we can go do something different. And I don't have the money anyway.
well, and that was my next question, and I think that maybe sometimes when people have a cursory understanding of a document or what's written in it, they don't fully understand that. So that was part of my questioning, was to allow you to kind of explain, hey, it's not like we're coming and knocking down, like, because very clearly on page 57, it says section 93.003 of the Nashville Code of Ordinances require that sidewalks be maintained by the adjacent property owner. To promote sidewalk maintenance and upgrades, the town could develop a cost share program for property owners. So on one paragraph, it's saying we need to upgrade everything. And on the next paragraph, it says, and the shop owners are on the hook for it. As a simple cursory read, that's what I read, right? So you would understand that maybe that's why there was such a buzz about it, like, hey, wait a minute.
Well, I think what this is saying is this is already an ordinance that's not being enforced.
Right. And it does go on to say, but again, cursory, which is the majority, okay? That's what it looked like. It does go on to say that it's for new and upgrading processes.
Right.
So,
And in order to be eligible for grants, you have to have the plan. But for federal or state money.
Well, I think to echo again what Carol said a couple of times, and it gets confusing. The comprehensive plan is not enforceable.
Correct.
It is basically aspirational planning.
Correct.
Most of the time, if it's approved, it will apply for what goes on in the future.
Correct.
It's almost never retroactive.
Correct.
Can be in certain situations, if the public wants it to be and the funds are there, but that's typically not the case.
Correct.
So what this document is telling us is the people have spoken in different forms, and that this is the direction they would like to see an overall planning guide being implemented.
Correct.
It is not something that you can go after someone and force them to do anything. That is the development code that will come after
Correct.
these plans are put into effect.
After you try to get another grant in order to be able to.
And 5 to 10 years from now, some of this plan may not make any sense depending on what's happened in our community.
That's correct.
God forbid if we had a fire, there's a lot of things that can change to make things like, oh, this is bad, or hey, this is really awesome.
Yeah.
So this isn't like, this is it forever. This should be a living document that each council looks at.
And like Andy was talking about, and that who will be forced to do what, when, where. I don't like to use that word forced.
It is.
Will, oh, you shot my train of thought there. It's, he's got.
We gonna say it?
I'll just leave it at that. It is, it's, the development code will have to be written to hopefully come in compliance with the wishes of the comprehensive plan. And that development code, again, is an ordinance. And that will have the, conditions that'll need to be met, no matter what you're talking about in terms of land development. And any penalty clauses that may be there or may not be there. It will be in that document, not in this comprehensive plan. So I know there's a lot of confusion about that.
I'll also just add, I mean, the comprehensive plan, everything you're saying, that this is to, represent what people want to see happen. The people here speaking their mind are a part of that process to make sure that the plan represents that. I will caution, just from our experience with the Brown County Comprehensive Plan, I can understand your point about that this is very specific and that can seem maybe limiting or like it's already making a predetermined outcome for a thing in the future. But our problem has been with the current Brown County Comprehensive Plan is that it is so general as to be useless as a guiding document, because you could interpret anything it says in any way you wanted to interpret it. So there is value now in getting clear about kind of those vision statements, understanding that this isn't what becomes the enforceable thing, but it is what guides future ordinances or, the other decisions. But like, there is value in being clear now and hoping that this represents the overall desires of the community. I'm a business owner here, I'm a resident of the county. And so, it is a tension, and the people here voicing opposition have just as valid of a voice as the people who have voiced support or opposition that led to the document we're seeing.
Another way to look at it, and I'm going to be quiet after this, but the comprehensive plan is not necessarily for today. It's how you want Brown County and Nashville to look in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
But I would agree with you 100%, Randy. And as I'm reading through the document, right after on page 60, it has listed several other communities. And I would caution that we go to Carmel and ride on the Mono. That's awesome. But we go there to do that. We don't come here to do that. So in the overarching what we want to be, we've got to make sure to not try and be like everybody else. We've got to try and be like us. I 100% support the ADA. Like, there are some sections of our sidewalks that are impassable, that's rough. Jaywalking is a horrible problem in Nashville. It's been that way for years. People think it's Disney World and walk right down the middle of the street. But that's also like part of that environment. It creates an environment that's why people come here, because it's not like Carmel or Whiting or changes at trail crossings in Evansville. It's quaint, and so we've got to find a balance, again, that's just one man's opinion,
Anybody else? Okay, next speaker.
Hey, everybody, Denise Scroggins. I just have a couple of questions. The first one is, did the town of Nashville already hear the May 7th comprehensive plan, and then they recommend it to you all? Is that how it works?
Council or the RDC is who is making, the RDC is Nashville RDC. I don't know who's on that, but
that
is who is making.
They recommended the plan to you to vote on.
Correct.
so it's past one group.
Right, but the plan changed. I mean, is that,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Statutorily, the RDC does not have to certify to the Plan Commission. So this is the first public hearing that is required by state statute.
Correct.
But I mean, because they passed something that we all get here and a whole page is removed. Is that, but that's nothing to be concerned with.
Well, like Kayla says, according to statute, they didn't have to review it with the RDC. That was more of a, we want your opinion, an extra step, so to speak. Tonight is the first official
Step.
public hearing.
So
Yes.
if you guys pass this, then what happens?
It'll,
Well,
So we will,
go ahead.
Go ahead.
we would make a recommendation, not pass.
Okay.
yeah, APC will make a recommendation that is, they can do a positive recommendation, negative recommendation, or no recommendation at all, and they can add changes too. That will then be recommended and certified to the town council.
Okay.
And then if it is anything like the corresponding county counterparts of these processes, I'm gonna imagine that regardless of what we say or recommend, the town council can make whatever decision they decide to make. So
That is
we
true.
hope that they'll take
They'll
our
take your
recommendation
recommendation,
into
but they don't
account.
have
They
to.
don't have to.
Now, after the town council, does it go to commissioners or is town council fine?
No.
Town council's fine. They're
Okay,
the legislative body for the town.
Gotcha.
so a couple points. I think, and I'm not sure if it's been corrected, but I think the town has a storm drain problem already. So if we put asphalt on all of these parking lots, that's bad. Even in the future, if we do that, that's bad. I'm guilty of that because we paved our driveway and now my flower bed floods. And Kurt's sitting there going, well, it's what you get, you know? But I mean, that made me think of that. Even in the future, if we do that, we're gonna have, that involves upgrading our storm water system. And, which is better. I mean, gravel, because the water can absorb. So, and then the other thing's been taken out, but I was all bent over. But I think Andy's right. I think come to Nashville because we are Nashville. We're not all these other towns and we don't really need to be. We just need to be us and keep being good at it. And that's all I have.
Penny, were you on the RDC? Are you on the RDC?
No, I was on the DRC for 6 years.
Development review.
Review commission.
No, a lot of letters in that, all of it.
Yeah, I
All the
know.
same letters.
Okay.
just-
All right,
Okay, thanks.
thanks.
Jeremiah Rankman. I'm speaking on behalf of Peaceful Valley Heritage right now. Just clarifying questions. The steering committee was chosen with a diverse background of representation, correct or incorrect?
Yeah, there's a list in here.
Yeah, but it doesn't give their background per se. So I would assume that it is a diverse background and that you did your due diligence of picking individuals from a wide range of expertise in these areas within the community.
I can give you what they are.
No.
Okay,
But
but yeah.
it's a yes, right? Yeah, you did your due diligence. Second question is, this plan is a recommendation of best practices gathered from experience from other communities, but also from best practices within the expertise recommendations from that steering committee, correct?
Yes.
So Andy, of course, steps out, right, when I'm gonna call him out a little bit. A couple of the conversation was, let's be Nashville, let's be like us, let's not be. One of the things that we should do is preserve our historical value of Nashville. And give credit where credit is due, and Peaceful Valley Heritage made the historic, or applied and got the historical district for Nashville, Indiana, by the state of Indiana. And with that, we need to definitely, one, call that out in the plan to give Peaceful Valley Heritage that credit. But two, that's the materials that we're looking at, Andy, I think, is when we call Brown County Stone, and if we use modern materials, we lose that historical value to the historical district. And if you make updates to a house and it's not held to the historical representation of that time period, you lose that, and then the percentage of historical values or historical structures within the district, that percentage goes down. And then therefore you lose the historical district for the whole town of Nashville or the village area. So I would be a little bit concerned on the type of materials and make sure that we stick with the historical aspect of the town when we are choosing that. And I think that is called out. But again, I just think one of the things, give credit where credit is due on the historical district of Nashville.
Thank you for that information. Appreciate it.
And I know I took a brief recess and I didn't know it was directed to me, but to be specific, that one of the things that we're looking at is, or that I was recommending, was a product called LP SmartSide. It's a condensed OSB product that looks just like cedar. It's wood grain, but it's resistant to boring bees, to woodpeckers, and all the other pests over cedar. We've got a situation with the library right now that all of it has to be restained. The whole back side never gets any sun. It's all cedar. It was never caulked. So we've got a multi-million-dollar building that's going to rot if it's not corrected. So when we make the corrections, that would be a good time in my mind, as someone who kind of studies building envelope and construction, to upgrade the material while maintaining the look and heritage of what it is.
I totally agree with that. The this is not a historical building.
Right.
So therefore, that wouldn't be in that realm. It's the historical buildings that I'm concerned with.
Right.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Joe Jackson. I just had a couple of comments. I'm not politically correct or anything like that, but you know, I came to Nashville 11 years ago, Brown County. Love the place. Absolutely love it. I come from Hamilton County. It's horrible there. They did all kinds of Noblesville, Carmel, Westfield. That is one place I steer clear of. It has changed so much and it's so bad. It brought in all kinds of people from everywhere. It's not even home anymore. I consider this place home. I really like this place, but anybody that wants to change something, what do you want to change? We've been coming here since like 1980. And I think it's a great place. I don't know who said, oh, we need to change this, we need to change this. Why? This is a little gym, and we got Franklin, Columbus, Bloomington. All this is being built up around us, and if we don't watch it, the same thing's going to happen. Now, I know this is just a plan, but all laws, regulations, ordinances all come from a plan. Nobody forgets what's in these papers. Everything comes from that. So I just think everybody needs to steer clear of that, listen to the people. Like, I didn't even know about this whole thing till last week. I got 3 businesses and I work all the time. A lot of people that are really concerned have no idea this is even going on. And I think it needs to be put out there a lot more. I don't do social media. I'm totally against that. You know, bad on me, I guess, I'm old school. But the people in here love the community. And I think somebody's idea that turned into this is personally money wasted. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just wanted to point out a little clarification. And I understand what you're saying, sir. But we talked about, I'm going down to the utility and area. Utility infrastructure and public services, which is water, wastewater, and the storm water master plans. The problem is we can't get any grants if we don't have a plan. Okay, whether it's from the state or it's from the feds, you have to have a plan. You just can't willy-nilly go and apply for something because they won't give it to us. So there's part of, and yes, keeping the historical thing, I'm all for it. I married into the plan. Okay, I'm not from the plan, I married into the plan, but I'd like the Nashville to stay Nashville.
I totally agree on that. But like plans of like more apartments and all that, let's face it, Nashville is not the place for apartment complexes and all that. There's no room. I mean, everybody been here in October. There is no way, the structurally, the plumbing, the septics, all that, it'd be a nightmare.
I just wanted to explain that
Yeah.
one part.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, anybody else?
My name is Haley Sizemore, and I'm gonna read a letter written by Win Tran. My name is Win Tran. This plan sounds good to me. Looks to me the people that wrote this about Abe's Corner to get rid of me. What thing did I do wrong to the people who wrote this? The building belongs to me. Why do people who wrote this want to control my land and life? I pay taxes. Why do they want to take everything away? I have been open over 10 years and never have a problem with anyone. Did they talk to every store? I want to know. Are they people that sell the same as me? This is not the freedom I was told I would have in America. Every people who come to my store say they like to look at the stuff I have outside. And thank you to all the people taking time out of your life to help me.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else?
Hello, I'm Pam Gould. I own a hotel here in Nashville, live outside of the town and the county. I want to take this opportunity to applaud the town, Sandy Jones, her team, REA, you all, for your service for the community and charting the course ahead. Comprehensive plan is a vital part and a necessary part for the future of our community. When I attended the May, I think it was, I'm not sure what date it was, the last town council meeting, it was when the town council voted to go ahead and push this to the next step. It was pretty clear to me that the majority of them had not even read it. I don't know how many of you have actually read the whole thing, but it is how many pages? I heard 82, 100 and some, and that's a huge body of work that I believe deserves closer scrutiny rather than to just push it down the line. I don't exactly know what the solution for that would be. There are several things in it that are very concerning, some of which have been mentioned already. One of the things that I've noticed is that there is a push for more density to help increase our tax base as far as housing is concerned, which is shows a need for infrastructure. If we bring in more residents, where are they going to have their hair done? And where are the service industries going to be located to support an increased population? So I don't see any new areas that will accommodate service business that will support more residences. This being a 20-year plan, I really believe that needs to be taken a real hard look at, especially along 135 North out of town and on outside of town on Old 46. These are areas that should be considered for future business development. One other thing, I noticed that in the trail section, the trail plan that was adopted by the county and the town is not the same trail plan that is in this document. This document has a change made to where it had gone through Tilton Farm before, and now it basically goes around it. And there is a section there where there is a 70-foot drop in a section of 150 feet, which sounds terribly inaccessible. And so I think that needs to be very closely taken a look at before we just go ahead and push out a plan that there's already been grants applied for based on the previous one and many other steps. So I would like to also mention that with the county being involved in their comprehensive plan, that maybe there would be a really beautiful opportunity for the county and the town to take a look at each respective plan before they're adopted, to make sure they talk well with each other, to make sure they're moving together in the same direction. I'm not sure how that would best work, but a little bit more effort, just a little bit more, and a collaborative effort to get this thing over the finish line well. Let's not throw away all the effort that's been done to it by pushing out a product that we already know has some flaws in it. So I would like to encourage you to, whatever you have to do, table it, take another hard look at it, see what other kinds of changes that the team wants to put forward, and go from there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Andi Rogers Bartels, and I just wanted to say really quickly that I know they put a lot of work into this, and overall it's awesome. It's a great vision for the community. I would caution about the directives that seem very pointed, especially the outdoor one that I know has been, the outdoor display one, which I know has been taken away. However, some community members have used that as an excuse to bully others and intimidate others. So I think that having those exact directives without an actual plan to implement them is harming some of our community members. That's what I got.
Ma'am, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I fully understand what you were meaning when you said that some people are using that for bullying other people.
Yeah.
Using what exactly?
Using that it's gonna be a ordinance now, and there's gonna be people who are enforcing it, and they are intimidating shop owners and people like that on Facebook as well as in person.
That's the first I've heard. I'm not on social media. So I'm not aware.
Nobody's done it to me, but I have seen it done to other shop owners, particularly on Facebook and also in person.
And as you've heard numerous times tonight, this is a plan.
No, I know.
Not the ordinance.
But not everybody understands that either. The community is taking it as this is what is happening. So, I mean, you know, that's just my 2 cents.
That's why I keep repeating it, so hopefully, some people.
But our whole community is not here. So, I mean, it is, you know.
Well, thank you for that. Anyone else?
My name is Charles Wright. I'm an owner here in the community as well. I'm kind of like Joe Jackson. I'm kind of coming in on the tail end of this, not done much research, but just what I hear tonight. I think a plan for our community is a good thing. Because without a plan, the people will perish, right? But here's the thing, it's very clear to me that, I mean, we just willy-nilly just removed a whole section out of this that is a big controversial situation. And we just removed that just like that. And so I say that, you say that this is not stone, this is just a guideline, but how much is this will be a guideline, and just all of a sudden we just eliminated something. And so I think that it ought to be researched a little bit more, perhaps studied a little bit more. And why would we just take something out just right now? Because that's basically, if I look around, that's what most of the people's hear about was the sidewalk display. I think that's what, if you see the head shaking, that, and then all of a sudden, after they got a big review online about it all, they removed it from the ordinances or this recommendation. And so it makes me question how much thought was really went into this, and that it wasn't some cookie cutter, whatever, that needs to be implemented here. I think there needs to be a plan, just because I've lived here my whole life and there's needed to have been changes made, but because one person didn't want them made, they never were made. All right. And so I think a plan of what we need to do and where we want to go, because if we don't have a plan, then any road will get us there. Obviously, we do need a plan and we need a way to get there. I'm not sure this looked like a very well put together plan, but I don't know if it's been put together just all together great. All right, thank you.
Okay, I'm gonna suggest a 5-minute break. Because there's a lot of folks gonna need to stand up and move around and some need to take a break. Which is me. And so we're gonna take a 5-minute break and we'll be right back and we'll pick up where we left off.
I can't, I'm every hour on the hour. I can't. What it is. Right, a little bit louder.
Yes, well, you'll see that.
Are we ready, Kayla?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Is there anybody else that wishes to speak tonight?
Chairperson, may I offer a point of clarification?
I would love you to.
Thank you. Again, Rose Scoble from REA. A point I want to make about the detailed recommendations that had been in for outdoor display being removed. That recommendation was changed and softened to a study by the town council with opportunity for more input, study on what other communities do, talking with the property owners, and then making a decision by the town council later on. It was not stripped from the plan, but it no longer has the level of specificity based on some of the concerns that were expressed. And so it isn't taking things out, it's reflecting commentary and saying this needs more study based on what we heard. So I just want to talk at that point.
You stay there for a minute. So, I mean, we could have made that suggestion, and even if nobody else did, and we could have here said, you know what, we don't like this, we want this change. We approve this except for this, and we want that looked at by the town council, what they want to do. Is that right?
Correct. And then the council could make your changes or reject them. And there's a whole process spelled out in the law for going back and forth if you choose to do that way. But yes, that change could have been recommended by the planning.
So this last minute change was made by the town council,
It was, no,
okay?
the council has not yet heard this, the redevelopment commission has, and that change was made after the redevelopment commission meeting based on input.
So it was the redevelopment commission who made the change, last minute changes.
They did not direct that change. That change came in that process and that hearing in that time frame, but it was not part of the redevelopment commission recommendation to you. And as we stated earlier, that is an additional part. That is not a formal part of the adoption process.
So can you, how did you come up with making the change? If it wasn't redevelopment or the town council, what spurned the change? Like, who made the decision to change?
Thank you, Andy. That's what I'm trying to
Well,
get.
let me I'll add another layer. Maybe I'm the only one up here that is on social media, but I was aware coming into this meeting that there were community concerns about the outdoor display. I'd seen requests for petition. I think if they hadn't presented it and said, we're removing this and softening the language, then a lot more people in this room would have stood up to speak against that portion, was the sense I got from conversation I had seen online. So I agree that it's always disorienting to get a change at the last minute that you haven't had time to like assimilate, but that the change was in response to community feedback. So they're making it as a
Item for further.
You know, or yeah, the consultant is taking in continued community feedback as part of the process and reflecting that to us that we're considering tonight.
Okay, I fully understand that, Karen. I think I'm not on social media, so it's hard for me to quite understand all that. But again, I'm trying to find out who it was that actually made the decision, whether it was the consultant, the RDC, or who, to make that last minute change. Sandy, can you address that?
Defer to Sandy or Allison on that since they're in the day-to-day.
Please don't fight over that question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, again, Allison Richardson with REA. Sandy made me aware of the comments that we received. She forwarded the petition to me, which several shop owners had signed. And I've been receiving comments on our Nashville-plan.com website. So knowing that there was this opposition, I asked, would you like me to remove this recommendation or change it? And we decided to change it through that by my suggestion.
Okay. That answered my question. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else? Come on down.
So, my name's Mike Klein, and I actually came mostly because of the, I guess, the proposal in there that would possibly allow like a pathway to an ordinance that would, prohibit or perhaps set up a committee to decide who's gonna be able to put what out in town. That's what brought me here. So I was surprised the language was changed. I guess I'm still opposed to it as it's written, because even though you've stated several times that it is just a plan, it's also been said in this meeting that it's the plan that the ordinances will later be built upon. And I still think there's, even with a bit of vaguety on that one, it's still gonna open up like I do leather work. I'm one of the artisans everybody said in the earlier part they wanted to support, right? And I started in Antique Alley, and basically everybody back there, because the shop spaces are so small, put things out. Like, I mean, every artisan back there, Sally, Rob the woodworker, John Mills. We didn't in our space because we had a tiny little front. We really couldn't hang out, but it was like normal to have things out. So I guess I'm still opposed to it, even though there's a change in it, because it, as you said, it's the plan, but the ordinances, they'll look at that as what you said, the community is going to say to the future as to what we want. I think, is there anybody who's still here still is uncomfortable with, could you raise your hand if you're still uncomfortable with the ordinance? The stuff, not the ordinance, but the way that's written. I mean, I'm still uncomfortable with it because I still think it's gonna be like, if you get along with the people in charge, you're gonna be fine to put your stuff out. But if you're an irritable person or not nice or whatever, you're not probably gonna get your permit to put your stuff outside. Second thing is, I think it was well-meaning, but I went to, I think, the February planning meeting for this, and I expected a little bit more interaction or a chance to talk. And I was a little disappointed. It felt like we were given like their plan, and then our job was to basically kind of approve it in some way. There wasn't as much interaction as I was hoping for. And I could only make one meeting, but I was disappointed in sort of the process part that I did. Maybe I didn't hit every meeting, but it was like they laid everything out, and then we're like, well, what do you all think about that? Really hurry, because we've only got 90 minutes and we got to get everybody through. There wasn't a whole lot of, and Sandy, I know you meant well, everybody did with that, but it was pretty pushed, wasn't it? Do you remember that?
I'm trying to think which one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You need to address the committee.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Anyway, sorry, Sandy. Okay, so that's it. I'm still opposed to that wording that's in there, and I would like to see the process slow down a bit to maybe get a little bit more like boots on the ground, kind of like public opinion on that before it goes into being the plan that we base our future ordinances on. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's Ross Benson. My wife and I own the Cheeky Owl. We're also residents of Nashville as well. I was involved with Andy on the steering committee for the county, so I've kind of a little experience in how this goes down. And I understand it's kind of a time crunch, limited funds, and they're trying to push something through and put something in place that is glaringly not in place. And I think we know we need this. We need something in place, because, as you say, all the Oka grants, all the funding that you try to apply for, you can't get anywhere without a document like this in place. My wife and I bought the building on the corner of Pittman and Old School. So I'll speak to like what town decisions do to store owners here. And when we bought that about a month or two, I don't know exactly how quickly after we bought it, the town had planned to rebuild the sidewalk in front of our store because of drainage problems coming down Old School Way. And, we had no idea what it was going to look like. And it was, they came in, they did the sidewalk. Well, after they did that, we ended up having about a 10-inch drop off the new sidewalk on the walkway into our building. And at the time, and it was a different, organization of different people running the town council, I requested that they take action to fix that, because we had a trip hazard. We had to do something. And the people on the council at the time said, we don't have any responsibility for that. That's your property, and that's up to you. And so, we suddenly had a trip problem there, and we had to spend a couple $1,000s to fill that whole space in, and get it serviceable for our store in a very short period of time with very little notice. So, you know, if this is gonna be a visionary document, there are two things, that I think that should be included. Number one, before anything is done, there should be an impact statement specifically on how it's gonna affect any business owners in town. And also a follow-up on that, because not everything can be anticipated. Right, so in this case, we're gonna rebuild the sidewalk, this is great, we're gonna prevent flooding. Well, all of a sudden now I have a trip hazard in my, you know, and nobody can get into my store, which we just opened, and we had to spend a couple $1,000s to correct that. Second problem, or second, if this is gonna be a visionary document, the one thing I haven't seen, I looked through a lot of the sections on this plan, I don't really see any mechanism proposed in this document that is any kind of an outreach from the town, either town council or town management, to have a mechanism set up where shop owners can come in and address things and get, you know, some kind of issues resolved, you know. And there also are many shop owners in town who are not town residents, and they end up taking backseat because they really haven't got, you know, I mean, the town responds to residents or property owners in town. But, and I'm not saying necessarily the town does not respond, but it has been my experience that when the town did something, we had to respond to it, and the town at the time said, no, there's no help for you here. And I do hear from other people who come in here who have businesses in town, who don't live in the town proper, or maybe not even in the county. But there should be some proposed mechanism or some proposed language in this plan that would set up a town, I don't know whether it's grievance or whether it's some kind of a mechanism that the town interacts more with the local businesses. And I understand the town has to support and serve the residents with the taxpayers, and I'm a taxpayer, so. But anything the town does is going to affect also the businesses. And a lot of those businesses aren't represented, you know, either a vote or by having residency in the town.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate hearing that.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
Hi, Kyle Augsburger. My wife and I own Kip and Kindred gift shop in town, and live just on the outside of town. Want to put an exclamation mark on many of the things said tonight. I do remain a bit confused. As I understand what's being said tonight, the sidewalk recommendation has been changed but not removed from the document, and for us that's a concern. I don't think that's showing a plan that's moving in a direction that's helpful for the economics of town and for tourism, and leaving the recommendation in there loosely isn't of any encouragement to business owners in town. We understand that the passing of a plan like this is not the passing of legislation, but we also understand that that's where you look when you make those decisions. And I just face that, you know, a recommendation of which there's no ordinance for. In talking with the design review group the other day to find out we couldn't use a historic looking vinyl railing on a building in town as a replacement for the rotten wood railings, because the plan that they use recommends that not be done. But we understand that recommendations are followed, and so leaving that in there is of no interest and no comfort to businesses who realize that as an arts town, what you do is you display the art and you make it seen, and that's why people come to Nashville, and it's part of the flavor and feel of Nashville. And it really does not belong in a plan like this to even be considered. I think if the idea is more research needs to be done. Hopefully, one of the number one ways in which research is done on that is to hear that the businesses do not think that is a helpful move for business in Nashville. So I realize there may be other reasons and things they would want to find out, but certainly one of the things to realize is that's not helpful for business. And I think that the kinds of recommendations that we're seeing in this plan have often unintended impacts on businesses. And we've heard that tonight from others. And that's a real caution that I want to raise as well and say, I think that's worth slowing down the process to evaluate recommendations and the plan as a whole to determine if this is going to be beneficial to Nashville and to what Nashville is for the people that come and love it. And so it's important, and it's not meaningless that recommendations aren't yet policy. It's pretty significant. So we just hope that there would be a real caution as you consider passing a plan. I also did notice tonight, no one is here representing a pro side of this plan. And I think many of us are not opposed to the idea of the plan or the plan itself, but we do realize that there's problems and we're not in favor of that. And I notice there isn't anybody tonight who has come for that side of it. So thank you.
Thank you.
I am Shelley Benson. I agree with the concern part of everything, but I feel it is important that we do take that with a big grain of salt, take that all into consideration. But I think this plan is something that we absolutely need because there are things that we need. And again, bottom line, we're not able to get these grants and different things if we don't have something like that in place. So why I do agree as a shop owner and a town resident that we need to look at it and be sure that it fits Nashville and what we are is Nashville. I do think it's so important that we figure out what that is and go forward with it, because without that, the things that we really do need aren't possible at all. So that's all I have.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else? So.
Here once, but can I come up again?
Well, there was another hand up that said, are you ready to come up now, ma'am? Yeah, I saw you in between the two places.
I just want to say for the record, there are people, my name is Darlene Meyer.
Thank you.
I live in the town of Nashville. There are people here that support this plan. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. But like you said, Ms. Bowden, it's a suggestion. It's not in concrete. And so we have to start somewhere. And then the town council go to the meetings. You can stand up and ask anything you want. So they are, you know, if you want to talk about something, every meeting I've ever gone to, they ask, anybody want to bring anything up? So they are accessible, more so than I've been in other towns. So for the record, there are people here that are supportive of that. We didn't get up and talk about it because we weren't against it. So there are other people here who may not agree on everything, but like you said, it's a guideline. It's not set in stone. I just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sorry, I just thought of some more. Sorry.
That was scary, I thank you.
So what prompted this is my understanding that we need grant money, right, to do things in town, right? And Carrie, you had said that the county plan is more general.
We're working on a comprehensive plan for
So
that.
maybe we need to make this more general so we can get our grant money and go about our business. That's my 2 cents on that. And then Sandy, you said that, you know, when somebody comes to you and wants to build an apartment complex, you don't have anything to fall back on? Don't you have to fall back on the county zoning for the town?
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Thanks.
A
That's all I
lot of
got.
time, so Kayla can correct me, but like if we got a rezoning question, somebody wanted to rezone a lot in town or something, that would be what we would hear. The Board of Zoning Appeals hear something different, but like the criteria we're supposed to consider come from the comprehensive plan. So it's like, does what somebody's asking to do fit with what the plan is? And right now, the town does not have its own comprehensive plan, and I think we could all agree that the considerations for what should maybe be allowed in the county would have different considerations in town.
Right.
And the town has a different zoning ordinance than the county. So like, so it does to me make sense that the town would have its own comprehensive plan, but it's like, that's what we're looking at with some of these decisions, not even counting new ordinances that may need to be put in place. But when it's too general, this is what we have the problem right now with the county plan is anything could be okay. Anything that you wanted to say, well, that sounds good.
You could make an argument for most rezones either way, just by looking at the comp plan.
That
But
exists.
this could be that way too, because we're sitting here hearing, this is a plan, this is a recommendation, this is a plan, this is not law.
It's just something to take into consideration.
Something to consider, so then,
Which is a little bit more detailed than nothing, which is what they have.
okay, all right, thanks.
I'm gonna take a moment here.
Just 1 second.
I'm counting 1 second.
All's right. We say we need this to get grant money. We've gotten several grants at our church for the food pantry out at Mount Liberty, several grants. And with those grants, we have to be explicitly and detailed on what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. And we can't change. And so if we give this program for grants, then we have to make sure that that's exactly what we want, because we're going to have to stay with it. We don't be able to deviate when we present that to get grants.
Thank you. It was a little more than 1 second, but that was good.
I'm sorry.
For a preacher, that was 1 second.
Oh, a preacher? Oh, dear God.
That was short. I
am sorry. I did not know that. I'm a preacher's grandchild. All right, I'm gonna stand up and demonstrate something that I've been holding back on, and this has to do with the sidewalks, okay? You see, I'm in the healthcare business, and I went to work yesterday, and on the way to work, I drive through town, and when I drive through town, I stopped at one store just to see how open the sidewalk was right in front of the store, and it happened to be 5 feet between the bench on the street side and the cabinet against the store. That's 5 feet. Okay, now I know they put stuff out more than that, but that's only 5 feet. I was watching people walking down the street on another sidewalk, and there were only 2 of them walking there, and that's all that would fit on that particular sidewalk. I work at the hospital, and I went and grabbed a wheelchair. The wheelchair was wide 32 inches. Okay, and that's not counting somebody alongside or pushing them. 32 inches for a wheelchair, a little bit less for a rollator, the one that has 4 wheels and a seat, you know. And then you have senior citizens are being escorted by another one, and they're walking with a cane. So you have to have space, okay? But the sidewalks in Nashville don't all have that space. And if you want to increase the sidewalks, per all the regulations and stuff, they would all be going out into the streets, and we do not have room for stuff in the streets or moving buildings back. So this is all part of the larger picture of what we're looking at to make it functional and safe in order to get the grants, in order to help out. So just wanted to give you some visual picture of that. And is there anybody else? I saw a hand. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
My name is Glenda Bruner and I own Kisticook here in Nashville. That building was built in 1987. I've been in my shop for about 20 years now. Before that, I bought from the Barretts.
Downstairs, the toy chest would have things outside their store. Carol's Crafts would have things outside their store. Now it's Keith and Kindred. I have things outside my store. And the other person on the other side of me, the Reese's, they have things outside their store. We're a little bit different than what you would say on the street because we're covered. You know, we have the covering that is there. Rhonda K's has things outside their store that it would affect. Fox Run, not Fox Run, Foxfire. They have things, a lot of that, but the customers are what I think we're kind of overlooking a little bit too, hi Sandy, but is that they enjoy seeing the things outside that are being displayed that could be on it. They'll tell you when they come in. And I think sometimes we overlook the customer. And that's what brings the money into this town for everything that we're doing. I think number 3 shouldn't be revised. I think number 3 should be completely taken out. That is my opinion.
Thank you, ma'am.
I have a follow-up question for Sandy or the REA folks. Do you have, you know, I know that I've been involved in these kind of planning processes. Like I know how much, and you laid out the public meetings and, you know, community events you were at and chances for comment and having the website. So I know how much work goes into gathering the input that shaped this plan. And I agree with you that even the number, even if they don't sound big, to have, you know, dozens or over 100 comments from a town this size is actually a lot of feedback. And it may not seem like it, but I know you've done a lot of work. But do you have any kind of summary or like the data behind what are the things that you got comments on that I know now it's been kind of incorporated in here, but we've heard about the sign, we've heard about the gravel and the parking. What are the other issues that like over the course of public comment, especially since the plan, the completed plan has been released, that have been the general like types of comments you've been receiving?
Yes, so we've stored all the input that we've received, whether written or email or on the website, so that data exists. We tried to summarize some of it in the appendices section. It's not a ton. A lot of that data went directly into the goals and recommendations that were drafted in the plan. One that stuck out to me is a lot of people wanting to move to Brown County and Nashville, and some desire for more living options and more affordable options for people who perhaps work in shops but don't live in town. So housing variety was something we heard quite a bit. Support for the arts was a huge feedback. That was kind of a chapter we added. Not every community will have an arts and history chapter, but we recognized it as something that you all really valued. So we wanted to highlight it with some section. And the nature and outdoor section, a lot of times it's more generally like recreation, but there was such, I guess, the enthusiasm for nature and the landscape that was so important to your history that we added that section as well. So I would just say a lot of the recommendations and goals that we had were based on public feedback. Some of them I will admit were based on planning best practices that my firm encouraged, just as we see different trends across the country. We want to recommend things that we think are going to be important in the next 20 years. But if desired, all public feedback is reported.
So piggyback on that, and I've been a part of our community or our county-wide comprehensive plan since the beginning. One of the things that the consultants that we worked with did, now there's a caveat. I do feel like you've got a lot more public input. We were dealing with some time constraints and some budgetary constraints that prohibited additional, we didn't get quite what I would have liked. I do know how much work goes into this. Like, God love you guys. I get it. I wish we would have had this many people show up for input on the county plan. But one of the things that they did, the survey that we came up with a survey, and we sent the survey out, made it available on social media, made it available in several different places, but they actually put the survey, the questions, and what the answers were, and the feedback that drove this document. So the goals that we published, and it's not approved yet, it's still in process, but we said, here's why the genesis of this comes from this. So that might be a recommendation that, and you can take it for what it's worth, but that may be a great upgrade to this document, is to put in those surveys, to put in the public feedback that you received, and that's what's driving this document. Does that make sense?
It does. The information, we do have it. We did not add it to the draft, but if that were a request, it could be. The data is there if it's requested.
But again, so in my experience, there were some things that our consultant recommended that weren't really applicable to our community. In fact, we kind of had a little headbutt session over a couple of them, because in other communities, in other places, in other towns and states and whatever, that is a concern, that is a priority. We, the steering team, and we, the APC, found that some of those things weren't necessarily a priority. And we changed that document, even against our consultant's kind of recommendation, to fit us. So a recommendation that I don't know if you brought it back to the board, or if I don't want to go off.
You're on a roll.
I'm already there. So a recommendation that I would make, one, would be to publish the genesis of the goals. Where did those come from? That way the community and anybody that reads this document can look back and go, oh, that's why goal 1 is in there, because that was their largest public feedback with, this is what we want. 2, I would definitely consider being the first official step to this process, not a complete rewrite, because this is very well put together. I would say maybe take the recommendations that you've heard this evening, make an edit, and then let's look at it again. I don't know what your budgetary or time constraints are, if there's a timeline on the thing or not. But one of the negatives, one of the things I wished I could change with the county process is more time and more input from a wider variety of citizens, because ultimately that's who we represent, is the citizens. Like, that's what we want to do. I'm a firm believer in it. I feel like, being the town, you got more feedback than we as the county got. And it is hard. Like, I put in personal hours on election day, on some other public events that were going on, and setting up a booth and giving people the survey and showing them, hey, this is what we're doing. This is important. Don't just throw this in the trash. Like, read it and give us your thoughts. Like, please give us your opinion, because it matters. That your opinion will be used to generate our goals. So if I made any recommendation to the board and to the town, would be to maybe let's do an edit, or first off, show the people how you came up with why these goals are important, where that came from. Did it come from the citizens, or did it come from the consultant who has done this in other communities? And then they can kind of weigh, like, hey, yeah, that's probably a really good idea to think about, or hey, that's not really a priority or what we want as the community for this draft. And then bring it back in 30 days or whatever, next month's meeting or however that, I don't do the scheduling. And relook at, hey, these are we heard you, here's some changes. Let's look at it again. Just a suggestion, I'm just one guy. I'm not saying that's what you have to do, but that would be my recommendation.
Could you just have a little follow-up? We did present all these goals and recommendations to the steering committee and at public meetings. I know some people maybe felt like they didn't get to say as much as they would have liked, but we did put it out there. I really hope that the people that wanted to respond got to. If they didn't, I do apologize if anyone felt they were overlooked. But we try to be diverse and include as many opinions as we can, but you know, it is a challenge to get participation, but
100%.
We did present it to the steering committee and at public workshops. So we did our best.
And I'll tell you the same thing that I told our consultant firm, like we 100% value their input and their expertise. But ultimately, you guys are gonna go home, right? We still live here. This, while it is your work, it's a job. This is people's lives. So making the changes that the people want shouldn't be offensive or be taken in a negative manner. It should just be, hey, this is the way they wanted to do it. And that guides that community makeup. I know it's a guide, but it's like anything you say, canon will be used against you. Anything that's printed in here, canon will be used to guide going forward.
That's right.
So I think if I made a recommendation to the board,
Which we're not doing.
which we're not doing, but I would say, if I were going to hypothetically, I would say there's a couple tweaks that could be made, adding the section of the public input or the public input and publishing the public input results. And then maybe taking into consideration the comments from this evening and make any changes you find necessary and then represent.
Sandy, you have any comments you want to?
No, I'm on my 12-hour day.
Can I say one more thing really quickly? Shelley Benson. I didn't sign the petition that was going on in town. I'm a shop owner and a resident here. And when I listen to what's being said from this side of people upset about the display of things, and then what you pointed out about the ADA and all like that, they're both concerns and they're both great points. But I think it's got to be somewhere in the middle. I mean, we have to be concerned about people in wheelchairs and things like that. But then again, I'm on the shop owner side as well, and we want to have displays and things like that. But I really think that there is a way where we can do all of that. And maybe maybe with the verbiage in the plan didn't have that, and that's why some people are upset. But I think we can really accommodate a lot of the pros, the cons, and meet somewhere in the middle. So I hear your point. I think it's valid, but I was on the fence, and as a shop owner, I display as well. But I just think, you know, some things need to be done. And again, bottom line, change. You go on a vacation because you need a change. And even though when you hear like from your mom and dad, things are going to change and you cringe, change is a necessary part of going forward and everybody flourishing, even our town in Nashville.
Thank you, ma'am. Okay, I'm going to bring this meeting back up to the board now. Okay, so any more comments? That didn't be quiet, but they'll speak. Any more comments from Andy?
Yes. Could I ask the consultant to step back up to the microphone, please? The plan that we have before us this evening, you're presenting to us, has gone through public meetings. You received public input. Correct?
Yes, it was, we had a draft presented at the open house on the April 28th. We made some adjustments presented to the redevelopment commission on the 7th. And then today is the most recent draft with the changes noted in that packet.
Okay, so your steering committee, the people who were on the steering committee have reviewed this and looked at this.
They were made aware that a draft was available and they were able to look at it at their leisure.
Okay, so all public input requirements were met. It doesn't make any difference about participation with the public. That was their choice, whether they wanted to come in and do it or not. But you gave that opportunity was presented. Would that be a correct statement?
Yes, we've met all legal requirements for
Okay,
what was required for public input.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Kyle? Jane? Okay. Ken? Eric? Andy?
Again, if there's not a time or budgetary constraint, or something pressing that this needs to be moved along, that may go a long way with the community to feel a little bit more heard if they.
But
I referenced my comment before.
what would be, like, what specific guidance or steps are you saying to go back?
I would say, for the record, to publish the public input data as the genesis of the goals. Like, where did the goals come from? Who decided this is what our number one goal is? I know that our document was, our goals were a direct reflection of what the public comment was. I would pay specific attention to, and I'm not saying you have to change anything. My recommendation would be to look at the outdoor display portion, which was changed yet this evening. So obviously this isn't a solid, like, written in stone document. It is a draft, but from the public portion that we heard this evening, the outdoor display, the paved parking lots, the sidewalk, both displays and the size regulations, and relook at those sections and wording and see if there's anything that you would change according to what was said this evening, specifically.
But so would that be a thing like that you would recommend it on to town council with those specific, like, points for them to consider, or for those changes to be made before it goes to town council? Or you feel that it needs to be left open and come back to this board?
I mean, I feel like as many people that spoke this evening, with those three major issues, that it would need to be relooked at before passing on to town council. But again, I'm on your side as well. I've spent months working on it, on ours, so I get it. But in the same breath, I think it's worth every, like, just like coming in here, and sometimes it's easy to go, gosh, it's 8:30. I want to go home and eat dinner, but it's once a month, and I've committed to being here to be heard. That's why I do this job, or this, whatever you call it. That, I mean, that's the least I can do, is to make sure that everybody's heard. And, we've had more meetings that we've heard the same thing over and over again from the people, and that's our job, is to listen. So that's my 3 cents. I'm always a little extra, but I would make a recommendation that the public input be published somewhere in the survey. It should be a fairly easy click and add to the document, just for posterity, if anything else, this is what the people said in 2025. This is where this came from, and then possibly relook at the other 3 items that we recommended and then, or that were recommended by the public, and revisit at a future date. That's just me.
Yeah, I would agree with Andy for the most part. Sandy, you've got, and Allison and company, you've got a really nice document here. I said it earlier, I wish we had some of this, in our plan. But I don't think we can ignore the sheer number of people. I don't think there's been a single meeting I've been a part of in the last 2 years where it's been so one-sided on the public input side.
I can think of one.
Yeah, I
Maybe one other
think
one.
several, actually.
It was like 1 to 80, but,
Well, I will, sorry, finish your comment.
I know, hell, you messed me up now, go ahead.
Well, just this is a thing that has had multiple steps in the process for people to already feel like their input has been heard. So if you were in favor of this, you may not show up to give that input, where other times we're the first body hearing a proposal. And so the good and the bad have to.
Perhaps. I don't love literally 10
No, I-
seconds after we sat down to start the meeting, got to change. So I take a little issue with that. I don't know. I think you've got a really good document. I think unless there's a deadline you've got to meet or a fiscal responsibility that's going to crash down to earth next month, what's another public input hurt? I don't know. Go ahead, Randy. I got 2 microphones pointing. Take one.
Well, it seems to me that the primary objection from a lot of people this evening was about the outdoor advertisements. And I think that the change or modification of that language should go a long way to assuage those concerns. It wasn't removed completely, but I think that the language is still left in there that at some point in time, that's an issue that maybe needs to be looked at and considered. Overall, I think the plan, it looks like a very good plan. I think it's gone through all of the public comment and public requirements under the administrative code that it was required to do. And at this point, I heard the complaints, I heard some of the concerns, and I hope that the testimony that you heard in reference to that condition number 3 helps to answer some of those that you had and maybe make you feel a little better about it. And once again, almost ad nauseum, we've stated here that this is not an enforceable document. It is merely just a plan. And I don't want to emphasize just a plan. It's a plan that the Plan Commission should look at and take into consideration when they're writing the new development code. I have no problems with this, and quite frankly, I would be in favor of going ahead and submitting this with a positive recommendation to the town council.
Tim?
I see both sides, but I lean more towards Andy and Kyle's point that last minute change, the public had a chance to see the change. Maybe everybody would say, yes, that's perfect. Let's just go ahead and approve it. They don't have a problem with the sidewalk or that side outdoor storage and everything. But what's it hurt to let them publish it, let everybody see it, and then say, yeah, we're good with that.
Yeah, I mean, I am with you that it's hard to comprehend a change, even if it seems like the change mostly addresses, the changes reflects what people were saying they wanted the change to be in essence. I would probably lean more towards referring it on to the council with a recommendation to review those things. There's time between now and town council for people to get in additional input and, maybe with the recommendation. It is also hard when often the public hearing and the vote are occurring on the same night. Maybe the town council should consider a public hearing separate from a vote to adopt so that they give themselves more time to integrate those changes. But I don't know that I feel that it coming back around to this for this commission serves a purpose if we don't have like really concrete steps that would be happening between now and then. So that's kind of where I'm at, is that I understand the concerns. I would say based on the feedback and the conversation that maybe there's some things to be clarified, but I feel like that's probably happening in discussion with the town council, not the APC.
Jane?
There's a couple of things about it that I don't really like, but,
For it. You,
I don't know that it's, I don't know if it'll do any good for it to come back here. It's just dragging it out, but, I don't like the paving situation. I've got a gravel parking lot. It's not a public parking lot, but I know if I paved it, I would have flooding. I'm close in with other buildings and I would have, it'd be flooding going on because of the porous work. And, the displays, I think there should be some restriction, but a lot of people don't think that. And I think we are here to serve the public. So, I don't know. I don't know whether we need more time with it or not, but, I don't think it's ready to be voted on at this point.
Okay, on the back from the comment, so, I appreciate hearing everything that everybody said up here and everything that everybody said out in the audience. I'm more in favor of sending it on with our concerns for them to look at that we have already discussed multiple places. As someone who lives here and as someone who's in the healthcare business, I would be more comfortable to make sure that the accessibility of people, no matter how mobile or not mobile they are, is available and safe around the community. So, I mean, we do need sidewalks in certain places because they need to be replaced. Unfortunately, they can't be made as wide as we'd like it to make because they would be out in the streets and our streets are not that large. So there's got to be a happy medium in between. But I would prefer to have that additional information, like Andy was talking about, the graphs with responses, and send it on to the council with our concerns. So do I have a motion?
What are, I guess, a point of order, what our options are: favorable recommendation,
Positive, negative, or no recommendation.
but it's going to the county council regardless.
No, no.
Or
Town
town council,
Yeah,
sorry.
it's going to them.
I mean, we could table
We
it,
can make-
or you can add caveats to, so we can table it, make one of those 3 recommendations, or make a recommendation with like additional points of consideration.
Yeah, with reasonable changes.
So I guess, and that's where I don't want to tell you what to put in your document. You know what I mean? Like, I don't. I guess I'm just recommending, after hearing, and I guess I can ask Sandy, because you're the petitioner, right, officially. After hearing the public this evening, would you be opposed, or are there any changes that you would like to look at, or maybe put the public input in that? I mean, is that something that you would like to do? Or are you set on how it is now and rather keep it that way? Because I don't feel like it's you know what I mean? Like, I don't. Say
12.5 hours now.
I got up at 5 and at Fort Conkling today, so I'm with you.
4 o'clock.
I would really appreciate if y'all just gave a recommendation to the town council with, with your suggested changes. Obviously, they can agree with those changes or they can just toss them to the wind. Hopefully they'll listen to what people have to say, but make the best decision for the community as a whole. You asked about budget. Yeah, we're over budget. We're over budget because I wanted an extra steering committee meeting because we didn't get through everything that we needed. We're over budget because I wanted to make sure the public had every opportunity to have their voices heard. So do I want to kick the can down the road another month? No, I do not. But I think you guys just need to trust the process that we went through and make your recommendations to the council and trust them to listen to their public.
I agree with that. I see no problem going ahead and sending it on with the recommendations. And I think some of the recommendations that's been made here do make sense. I'm not in favor of coming back to us.
Do you want to?
I think that's. Why would make that?
Yeah, do you want to make a motion?
Pro, can we do that? I mean, no, not the motion on what I was saying as far as the not having to come back to us for another review. We can just send it on with recommendations.
You can send it on with recommended changes, yes.
Okay, so.
You can say yes, and we want you to consider X, Y, Z.
We'll help you.
Okay, I'll move that we go ahead and, after review and consideration, that we go ahead and send this on, to the, town council, as a positive with recommendations or just with recommendations?
A positive recommendation to the town council with suggested changes.
Which are?
You read my mind. Now, I'm not gonna try to go add those, recommendations. I'm gonna ask for the other commission members here to go ahead and enumerate those as they wish.
Say one of them is review of the outdoor display wording on page 19. Make sure that represents their desired, whatever.
I would say,
Does that represent the board or represent the community?
I mean, ultimately, it's the town council deciding is that what we wanted to say or not, and I would hope they would take into account the community's feedback, but what they're saying is what it says now, what they want it to say.
I would reference page 54, goal 5 for parking lots. I'd reference page 58, regarding parking lots. I would recommend sidewalks on page 57, both display and upgrade to size. And I would recommend that.
Slow down a little bit.
Sorry.
Thank you.
You can't write that fast, Andy.
57 sidewalks, maintenance and display.
Upgrade, maintenance and display. And I would recommend that, an addendum or somewhere be added the public input that was received. So it's on the record as this is where we came up with it. If we're going to go that way, that's the recommendation. That, I feel like that represents what we heard this evening. And it forewarns the town council, hey, these are some issues that people had, you know.
Well,
I'd be considered.
Okay.
Andy, can you be more specific on the parking lot? Because down here, we've got two different.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when you're saying page numbers, make sure you reference which draft date.
I don't think you've got the new one. We've got the new one here and that's not.
They do not match.
So can you be more specific on the parking lot?
May 7th or there's May 27th.
Oh,
I've got 7.
yeah, I only got 7.
Okay, so when you say page numbers, it means May 7th.
Okay.
On the May 7th version, so you guys have a different draft than I do?
We've got two. We've got two.
And we want to send this to the town council? According to the May 7th version, page 52. No, 50.
You said page 54, goal number 5, and that's in the May 7th version.
Hold on.
Yeah, you're right.
52 is a picture.
54.
54.
Yeah, goal number 5. No, not goal 5. Oh, yeah. Parking is paved with a hard surface material or permeable paver surface. I don't think that's the issue because permeable surface would be gravel like,
Well, there's,
Kyle said it's
page 56.
Yeah.
Where it, where'd it go?
let me get to page,
Here it is.
page 58, parking facilities and design, where it says gravel should be
Yeah.
prohibited.
That's what that's what we want out.
Yeah.
Are there any other recommendations to my motion?
Just for the record, can I read that motion and you need to
Yeah,
say
yeah,
if that still
please
stands?
do.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Brandy moved to send a positive recommendation to the town council with the following suggested changes. Review page 19, outdoor display. Page 58, parking lots, with the paving, design requirements.
Specifically,
Parking facilities and design is.
specifically no gravel, the no gravel clause, or whatever.
Taken out.
Okay. 57 sidewalks, upgrade, maintenance and display. And then public input added via addendum or even another document that's published.
Do we have a page number for the sidewalk display? Or that's what they,
Page 19,
Page 19.
the new page 19. Split up, it's right here. Outlook. But, yeah.
gotcha. I think it's,
There we go. It's right up.
so it would be on page 20. Well, this doesn't have a page number. So on the page, this says page 12 revised.
Yeah, that's earlier in the chapter. It's page 19. This section was added.
Okay, and then whatever land use and development on line three, goal three, that would be specifically something to look at. That was what we heard the most about.
Brayden, does your motion still stand with all of those additions?
That may be the longest motion I've ever been part of. Are there any others, recommendations? Okay, yes, I think the way you read it, my motion still stands, with those added, recommendations.
Anthony, you get a second?
I'll second it.
Kara, second.
Why'd you ask me?
Did you send the
You gave them.
Okay. Any other discussion? Danielle?
Jane Gore? Yes. Randy Jones?
Yes.
Carrie Annis?
Yes.
Sandy Boyles?
Yes.
Kyle Decker?
No.
Carol Bowden?
Yes.
Alan?
No.
Motion carries. Thank you. And thank you all. We appreciate your input and your time.
That guy's.
And I will certify those changes to the town council. Or to Sandy, and she can certify to the town council.
Great, thank you so much.
I make a motion to adjourn.
No, rain. All those in favor for adjournment, say aye.
Are we still getting drink?
My
store shop.
There
would be, make it free. It's free.
Yeah.